Minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4,
Did you?
3,
I can't. You
2,
need.
1.
What's that? What were you saying?
Oh, are you? No, nothing.
Oh, okay. Well,
Are you gonna?
hey,
Are we on now?
yeah,
Or?
sure. Yeah, we're on. Hey, everybody. This is the American Micro
Okay.
Podcast. It is March 10th. It's spring forward, which is why both Rodney and I are kind of like, "Ugh." Yeah, I'm Anthony Pego here in Oklahoma City. Today we're talking about what, Rodney? Rodney, how's it going? What are we talking about?
Just race and culture in America, past and future, and just where we're going. Pretty much where we've been and how it affects everything with how it's affecting us culturally, socially, politically, especially with this election coming up. So yeah, if you can
Yes.
if you can if you real quick if you can like if it's something that you can fathom as far as where you've been in a situation racially, if it's something that you've seen, heard, or said to other people, or yeah, we're going to talk about the systems in America that are just really just holding this country back, pretty much.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of people intentionally trying not to have this conversation. You see a lot online, especially in like Reddit forums, Twitter, and a lot of like conversation under memes or whatever, and not even under memes or anything that's intended to provoke conversation. You'll see people a lot more these days saying things like, why did you have to bring race into this? Aren't you the one who's being the racist or stoking, race problems in America by bringing race into things? And I feel like that's not helpful because there are race problems in America today. Sometimes things are obviously racist from like a minority's point of view, but somebody who might not go through those things day to day might not notice kind of the racial implications of some topic at hand or whatever. And it seems like some people are bad actors online and are intentionally trying to keep people from having that type of conversation. Have you experienced that at all in just your life or on the internet these
Oh
days?
God, oh God, yes, dude. There are a lot of people out there. I had a conversation with this guy from Canada, and so he has a son that is, I guess, his son's mother is like Asian, from like Southeast Asian, Filipino, Thai, something like that. And I said to him, we were having this conversation about, U.S. and how these has gone into other countries and basically, taken from these countries, um, taken resources, natural resources, committed themselves to, the United States has committed themselves to basically letting these countries know that, we're the new sheriff in town and you're going to do what we say. And destabilizing these countries, right? And I said the reason they're doing that, I mean, and part of that because they're brown people. He's like, oh no, that could never be. That look at that. I'm like, bro, first of all, calm down. It's something that has happened over and over and over and over and over again for the last 500 years. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. If you can explain to me that anything that's come from Europe, any man or woman that has come from Europe and landed in a place that wasn't Europe, please explain to me how it's gone for the indigenous people of that area. Explain that to me. Has it gone well? Well, we've got medicine and we've provided this and I'm like, no, I'm not asking you about that. I'm asking you about how it's gone for the people of said country, of said continent. How's it gone? How have these people fared? How are they faring now? That's the situation we're in. I mean, in this country, we are. I'm sure you know. You're Chippewa, for God's sakes. I mean, you're Chippewa. Your wife's Jewish. We know. Like it's just the way. I mean, you look. Don't try and what's the old word? Don't try and do the okey doke. It's not going to work, man. I mean, we've been, like people of color. We've been in a situation where we have literally been able to do this, and just watch white people do their thing, man. And now white men and women are like, we need to unite. We need to come together. And black people are, no. At least I'm like, I'm doing that. I've been there. I've done that already. We've tried that with you guys, man. We've been down that road. I'm not going down that road anymore because I don't trust you. Europeans have a track record, dude. And it's a long ass track record, bro. It's freaking 500-600 years of just bullshit to other people. And you're gonna tell me that you have no privilege, dude. There's this stand-up that Louis C.K. talks about, where it's like 500 years, a couple of years after Christ, Jesus Christ is walking the earth, and he goes, I'm white. And he goes, I could have gotten a table back then. He goes, I'm white. I can get a table anytime I want. He's like, he goes, yes, I'm white and I enjoy my privilege. And that's that's what it is. As a white person born in America, man or woman, you enjoy more benefits and more privileges than any person on this planet. That's just the way it is. That you have never not offered a job based on skin. You might not have been, you might not have had enough experience, or you might not have had the type of experience they were looking for, or maybe you didn't have enough education. But based on the color of your skin, no. I haven't met a white person in America that's been deprived of something based on the color of their skin. So, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I want to go back a little bit and respond to your point about there's a lot of kind of feels like pretend kumbaya where they're inviting, hey, we just all need to get along. Why don't you join us? And yada yada yada. And it's like that's great in theory, but and this doesn't apply to everybody I've met. But the problem is, you can say that all day long about any group. You can be like, well, obviously this doesn't apply to everybody. This is only a specific number of people. But here's the problem with just generally saying, hey, stop bringing race into things. Why don't you just like look at this as a human experience and blah blah blah. It's coming from a particular group. Whenever I hear that phrase, it is the majority, the people that are right now the majority and have been historically, and they are either willfully ignoring or ignorantly ignoring that there is a huge issue right now with Christian nationalist white people um, using that same tactic to get people to vote for their candidate, and then hopefully use Project 2025 and the same tactics that have been used historically to oppress the usual suspects, myself included, yourself included, my wife included. And there's no kumbaya available to us when those types of oppression rear their ugly head, more so than they just typically are day to day. So I have to be on guard all the time. I don't have the luxury of, just shrugging my shoulders and being like, yeah, let's ignore race all the time. Or right now, specifically right before an election, when Christian nationalists of the white supremacy variety are intentionally trying to take over the government. And when you look at those people in their own environment at like a MAGA rally or whatever, they're pretty clear about what their intentions are. And even if you get somebody that they know or they suspect is like kind of against, in their minds, against them, like the enemy. A great example is Jordan Klepper, the guy who works for the Daily Show. He'll go out to the MAGA rallies all the time, and he'll talk to them and ask them questions about. He'll give historical things that like Obama did, or that Biden did, but he'll say that Trump did them, and he'll be like, "What do you think about this?" Da, 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 da. He'll be like, "Oh, I love that Trump did that. I love that Trump did that." And then he'll be like, "Oh, sorry, I read that wrong or whatever. That was Obama," and they'll hate it all of a sudden, and vice versa. They'll say, "What do you think about, Trump doing this and that and that?" Did I say that right? Anyway, they'll always like flip the script and be like, you know what, I don't care, and they'll move on to the next topic. So they're disingenuous with the kind of front that they're putting on, and that is another reason I am extremely suspicious of somebody who's going to be claiming they want to invite me to the table to join their, kumbaya moment where we should all get along and should ignore race or ignore the culture wars like LGBTQ wars and da 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 da. You see that a lot when people are at the same rallies, and they'll be talking about, erroneously, of course, saying that this nation was founded on Christianity. And then you'll bring up like there's so many clips of people bringing up, well, actually, there was separation of church and state instituted by the founders in the Constitution, and they'll be like, "Well, I believe that was a mistake. They didn't mean to do that, or they shouldn't have done that, and they intended for it to be a Christian nation." And they'll continue on. In one clip I saw, with Jordan Klepper, the person he was interviewing said, "This is a Christian nation. We're Christians. We don't hate anybody, we just hate the actions," which is a very typical and I guess you could say clever. They think it's clever to say like hate the sin, not the sinner. But then they'll go on and tell you that they want Christianity to be taught in public schools and not, Judaism or obviously Satanism or any other religion. And when you ask them what people who have, what atheists who have kids should do, if somebody's going to force them to, serve or learn about another god in public school, they'll be like, well, then you need to pull them out and teach them at home or go to a private school or whatever. And you begin to pick away at these questions and these like these logical holes, these logical fallacies in their arguments, and they actually do not want to be neutral about things. They aren't there to be kumbaya. They aren't there to be friends. They're there to impose what they believe is the right way for you to live, for this country to be run, is how they'll put it. The country needs to go back to having God. The country needs to go back to this and that. And what they mean is they want to force that on everybody in order to make the country great again, or to make it, like they think this will bring less crime, or they'll say that this will bring less crime. This will bring, family units back together and keep them together. And there's no proof of that. There's no evidence of that, because historically, we've had Christianity and Christian, towns, and they all had problems. They all had couples that, murdered and fell apart, and, just everything that we have today in modern times. So very, very, very skeptical when somebody tries to shut down a conversation by saying, don't bring race into this, or we as a group are not racist, and it's actually racist of you to call us that, or to have concerns about that, I should say, because again, not everybody in any particular group is anything. Like there's differences in all groups, but there is obviously good reason to be skeptical, especially when the stakes are so high, when the stakes are as high as they are now.
I agree. So, I mean, I come from a multicultural, or a very multi racial slash cultural family. I mean, everything from Mexican to Puerto Rican to black, white, everything's in my. I could care less who you are, but understanding the narrowness of the American dream, and who that provided for. I mean, come on, man. This isn't. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure this out, dude. You still have people. There are 190 million people of European descent in this country, right?
Right.
And I think that's about right. And, given their proximity to, like, seriously being white, I mean, just think about, like, you and I were talking about this a couple of days ago. When you look at who these white people are, who still have this tribalistic mindset ingrained, not just in their heads, but in their souls, and their, it's like baked into their freaking DNA. Europeans were serving kings and queens just 200 years ago, bro.
Mm-hmm.
These people still haven't forgotten about that. Lady Di, all the princes of Denmark and Sweden and Switzerland and all this other stuff. Well, yeah, a lot of these people still feel as though the landmark that makes sense is, the European way of doing things. It's. I mean, dude, my name's Rodney Bernard Hubbard. I am not from England. I have the most freaking stone cold hardcore waspy name you could ever think of, How'd that happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the reason it happened was because my parents wanted to make sure that when I went out into the world and I looked for a job, my name wasn't going to be a hindrance. You know what I mean? My brother's names are. I have three other brothers. I'll just give you another. His name is Michael Anthony Hubbard. Michael Anthony. We have stone cold hardcore Christian names in my family, right?
Yeah.
And there was a reason that my dad and my mom did that, because they realized we were going to have it hard enough as it was, and we did. I did. I mean, coming up in the 60s and being in the Marine Corps, and I'll tell you right now, the Marine Corps in the 80s, yeah, it was a shit show. Like they call black Marines dark greens.
Oh my God.
Dark greens, right? Like
Wow.
green camouflage. Yeah, dude. Like, really? Yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah. All this. We're all Marines. Light green, dark green. Like, what? Seriously? That was the Marine Corps mentality back then, dude. Probably still is. I don't know. But I was in North Carolina, and I saw from 84 to 89. I saw, it was just, bro, it was just like when I drive home and we drive up through North Carolina, up the 95 or whatever, we take shortcuts or whatever through Snow Hill or Elizabeth we'd stop at these little towns and, it was just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, I remember going into this one shop. This is about 1986, it was 86. And the guy who was working there, African-American gentleman, older. And at the time, he basically had no shoes on, pair of, beat up jeans and an old t-shirt. And the guy who owned the store had on khakis, white guy, khakis, loafers, button down white collared shirt. And I mean, we all got back in the truck and we're just looking at each other like, wow, man, like seriously, that's what's up. And you will still find that in parts of this country. Now, are things better? Well, of course they are. And the reason they're better, better, is because things just had to happen. Truman desegregated. President Truman back in the late 40s desegregated the military. They desegregated baseball. Rosa Parks said, "I'm not sitting at my desk." Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Black Panthers, Bobby Kennedy. The civil rights and the voting rights legislation in 64, 65 that basically stopped Jim Crow. Well, I didn't say it, but then you had Lee Atwater and Nixon, who said, we got to do something about that. We can't have black people or these African Americans running around thinking that they own the joint. So we're gonna talk in code now. And people still do. Woke, that woke mindset that people have. They're thugs. Come on, dude. I mean, if you're saying the word woke, you might as well be saying the word black or Latino, like black indigenous people of color. You might as well be saying trans or lesbian or homosexual. We had the chance in this country to make things work, and a lot of rich white landowners back in the day said, nope, that's not going to happen, and it's going to be like this for the next 300 years. And that's what happened. So Bacon's Rebellion, like I said, was in 1676, and that led to basically, people being white. Not basically, it led to the construct of whiteness, and a lot of people, their souls for that. A lot of European men and women who were indentured servants, who wanted a part of the quote unquote American dream, which wasn't really the American dream back then. But hey, new country, you could own land, you could own people, I want a part of that. So you know what? I'll become white. And that's what happened. They got into whiteness, and now, you know, in their kumbaya state of mind, they're like, we need to come together. It's a deep subject, man. You know, it's a deep subject. You know, I've seen people on YouTube just literally like crying. I can't pay this. I can't pay my rent. I can barely, you know, feed my kids. I can't go on vacation. I can't, you know. Well, you know, you thought this white thing was going to last forever, and it's not. So, with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of touched on something I want to ask you about, where you said for some people in the in the past and the present, and clearly in the present, it still exists. Some people of color have found it more advantageous to kind of blend in hopes of getting a piece of the pie. There's an awful lot of kind of pulling up of the ladder lately. And I guess I wanted to ask you what you thought about Mark Robinson, the North Carolina GOP nominee for governor. And before
Oh my
before you tell me
Whew.
what you think, I'm gonna go through a list of kind of his beliefs. So this is not a comprehensive list. This is just like a short list. So he's hurled.
That's a short list.
Yeah, according to Vox, they said he's hurled hateful comments at everyone from Michelle Obama to the survivors of Parkland school shooting. He's called the LGBTQ community filth. He threatened to use his AR-15 against the government if it gets too big for its britches. He wants to outlaw all abortions, as well as return to a time when women couldn't vote. He ridiculed the Me Too movement and women generally and climate change. He's a Holocaust denier. He's made in the past anti-Semitic remarks. He suggested that the moon landing in 1969 might have been fake. He said that 9/11 was an inside job, that the music industry is run by Satan, which, if true, good job, Satan, because I love music. So props on that, dude. And that billionaire Democratic donor George Soros orchestrated the Boko Haram kidnappings of schoolgirls in 2014. That's just a short list of the crazy stuff this guy has said. So what are your thoughts on him? Do you think that's exactly what he's doing? Do you think he believes all of these things? What do you think?
You know, there's some people on this planet, in this country, maybe in the universe, you know, in other solar systems, galaxies, that, you know, see the world the same way he does. I mean, something happened to that guy, right? Like, that type of rhetoric doesn't come out of been tragically hurt somehow. You know what I mean? Like, that's toxic. Okay, that's a psychosis. That's there's some damage there. It's 2024, bro. You know, you don't want women to vote. You know, and all these other things, like, dude, are you kidding? Like, women can't vote?
Yeah.
I mean, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? What does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, how do you tell an 18-year-old, 28, 37, 42-year-old woman that she can't vote, that she doesn't matter, that it's not within her best interests even to step foot outside of her house, because if she can't vote, she might as well not even work. She might as well have 9 kids, you know, and just be in the kitchen and pregnant all the time, right? Because that's what he's saying. And this is a black man, bro.
Yeah.
This is a black man. Okay. This isn't some. It just I feel like, at the end of the day, no, I can't stand that term. I can't stand that phrase. Let's just say at the end of 1,000 years, if we're still in this situation, which we probably will be, humans suck. You know what I mean? We haven't gotten it right, dude. We've had all this time, all this technology. We went from buggies just 150 years ago to, when was the first car? Like, what is it? What is it? 124? When did the first Ford come off the
Model A. Let's
assembly
see.
line?
Model
Yeah.
A release date was 1927.
Okay, so not even 100 years ago, the first car came off. Come on, dude. And now this is where we're we have been, especially, I would say, mentally, emotionally, and maybe even, well, of course, physically, but mentally, emotionally, and more so as far as our inability to understand the nuance of empathy and how it works and how it helps us become better people. People don't need sympathy. They just need to be cared for. They need, hey man, are you okay? Oh, you're okay. What's wrong? Is that hard? Is that hard? Can I help you? How can I help you? Tribalism is still alive. Okay. These things haven't gone away. We're still in a situation where, white men and women, black men and women, Latino or Hispanic men and women are at odds with one another, as well as Asian men and women, as well as, people who look at America from the outside and go, dude, seriously? Like, what the fuck, dude? Like, are you really like, well, we're the great, this is America. This is, and I get that, dude. I was a Marine in 6 years. I did 3 years in the National Guard. I come from a family my dad did 20 years. I have two brothers that did 20 years in the Army. In my family, we probably have, and not just in my nuclear, and I can't stand that word either, but in my family, but just the amount of people that have served in my bloodline, it's over 150 years worth of military service, right? Combat, the whole 9 yards, So, the country, I'm an American, right? But I grew up realizing, being a black man, a black child, black teenager, what it was like to be American back in the 60s, 70s. So for someone like this, what's the gentleman's name again from North Carolina?
Johnson. Well, it was Mark. Oh man, I just had that. I got it right here. Mark Robinson, not Johnson, and he's 55 years old, by the way.
Mark Robinson. God, dude, I can't. It's hard. It's hard for me to, like, knowing what I know, knowing where I've been, knowing how what I saw people go through, like, just like right in front of my face, knowing what I went through. It's hard for me to understand someone like that, a black man especially, someone who doesn't have the ability, and God, whomever you pray to, those types of people, they need prayer, they need your meditation, they need whatever it is, because the universe, I mean, energy is a crazy thing, man. And that's what we, dude, the what comes around that goes around thing that's gonna happen in this country is gonna be, man, it's gonna be a mess, dude. It's gonna be, yeah, dude. It doesn't matter who wins this election, dude. Well, I don't want Trump to win this election. I'm just being straight up. But I mean, I'm just telling you, it's when men are in that number, when they're singing that song, when they're writing that type of rhetoric, they're speaking it to truth. You know what I mean? That's their truth. When that's how they feel, that's some fucked up shit.
Yeah. So it's a little confounding to me, just kind of on an emotional level. I like intellectually understand why the Hispanic voting contingency, the electorate, increasingly support Trump over Biden. There's many reasons, religion being a very big one. There's also, again, this ladder poll kind of mentality. Like they, a lot of them will tell you on the border, I got here legally, so anybody else should do the same. And I understand the sentiment, but when you look at Trump's track record with the names that he's called them and the threats that he's made, not just against illegals, but people of color of various groups, including Latinos, it's really hard for me to imagine supporting him at the numbers they do right now. The New York Times and the Siena College have a new poll that shows 46% of the polled electorate, Latino polled electorate, 46% are in favor of Trump and 40% are in favor of Biden, which is mind-blowing to me, that there's such a huge disparity. That it sounds not like a big gap to a lot of people, but when you're talking about tens of thousands of votes deciding an election, and 15% of the United States electorate is the Latin vote, for the difference between 40% and 46% is perhaps election winning numbers. So it's very strange to me that individuals who have been threatened by a candidate can then vote for him for, I guess, for religious reasons, I guess for economic concerns. Do you have any thoughts on kind of the Latin electorate increasingly supporting Trump?
I don't look, dude. The only votes that count are on November 6th. That's how I see it. And come in 8 months, a lot's going to change.
Yeah.
I mean, people go to, we only have 8 months, but in 8 months, dude, we're going to see where this guy is when it comes to jail time, when it comes to a lot of things, Yeah. But, if he wins this election, the people who voted for him are going to, I remember the polls had Hillary ahead by a buttload, and she lost. They had Trump ahead. He lost Arizona and he lost Georgia. So it just, they're not taking in, they're not taking into consideration the military vote. They're not taking into consideration, the votes who are 18 to 24, young men and women. And they're not, dude.
Well, there was just
that whole situation.
There was just a study that came out recently that found that opt-in online polling, and not just online, but phone, random calls, but opt-in kind of stuff. Most of the most of the polls right now seem to have, according to this newest study, have a flaw in the methodology because of the opt-in tendencies. And it's looking like these polls that have been flawed since like the Clinton election and the more recent like midterm elections were so wildly off because the theory goes two things. People who have the time to sit down for an opt-in poll are not a good grounded basis for viewing the whole country's population. And two, it seems like there's an extremist attitude amongst some people who gleefully opt into polls hoping to sway elections or the poll itself for kicks. And one of the ways this was kind of gleaned from the data was they were looking at the actual numbers of like I think it was like white Christian nationalists was one of them, but I remember another one was they were looking at the polls of people who were self-reporting as having like a commercial license to drive submarines, and they know the actual they know the actual number of people that have these licenses, but in these specific age groups, and I think it was like 18 to 25 and 25 to 40 or something like that, the numbers were way above like the total number of people with these licenses in the nation. And then when you got into the older groups, the numbers, while slightly inflated, were way closer to the accurate number of people who should. The percentage of people, it's under 1% of the nation for sure. But like in the younger group, it was like 20% or something of these people reported having this submarine commercial driver's license. And this applied to several of the questions that they added to try to suss out like which groups were kind of lying more. And it seems like the lower aged people were outlandishly lying in their questionnaires. And it also looks like people who are kind of like on the extreme sides, be it the extreme left or the extreme right, also engage in these more and might over-report some of their like beliefs or whatever.
Of course they
might
do.
lie. Yeah. So
I
these
mean,
polls seem
dude,
to
check
flop.
it. I mean, the big red wave that was supposed to come in the last election for in the last congressional election, dude, they didn't win shit. They were supposed to, or was it, I think it was like 60%. They were supposed to like. It should have been. It was supposed to be a bloodbath.
Yeah.
And they were. Come on. So I'm not. I mean, look, there are a lot of Republicans out there, a lot of like moderate Republicans out there. There are a lot of independents out there who understand who Donald Trump is. There's a lot of AI. I was just watching this stuff last night on these photos, these AI clips that Donald Trump's in the middle of all these black people hanging at a party. I'm like, no, he's not. Donald Trump would never, ever. Yeah. That just would not happen. That would never happen. That would never happen. Can you see Donald Trump in the middle of like black people? Come on, dude. Come on.
I mean, I feel like
no. I
feel like for a photo op, he would try his hardest to put on a smile, but the dude always looks so weird and awkward every time he's in any kind of photo op for like, there's weddings that come to Mar-a-Lago, and I'm sure he's very glad to be in a photo op at Mar-a-Lago with a wedding, but he always has like this big cheesy fake grin that just looks performative. And I feel like you could never get him to just relax and be himself surrounded by a bunch of black people. So it was there was a great little skit that I saw where they were saying, how can you tell if a photo with Trump in it is AI? And it's if it looks normal, if it looks like normal, if it's a totally outlandish and completely strange photo, it's probably real. Like him holding his hand on that globe with all of the Arab, leaders around him. If there's a photo that looks completely insane, like him staring up at the solar eclipse, that's real. But if it's just him hanging out with a bunch of black people, it's probably AI. So I thought that's a good point.
Dude. The reality behind something like that is just not possible. It's just not possible. I mean, Donald Trump he's a bad person. He doesn't have a lot. I was watching another, interview of MAGA voters, and one gentleman said, older white guy, he goes, I didn't really know who Trump was, but I remember one time he was standing on a stage and he went over and he hugged the flag. He's like, oh my God, I could totally vote for a man who hugs the flag, and I'm just like, really? On top of all the other bullshit this guy's done? Like, you can vote for this guy who hugs the flag. Okay, that's fine. That's, go ahead. Vote for him. Vote for him. Please do that. Just, oh my God, dude. So,
Man,
look. Dude, go ahead.
No, I was really just sighing. Like it totally frustrates me and blows my mind that there's people running around who actively ignore actual information, like important critical information about who people are. I mean, this dude has gone through like 90 something indictments, like 6 bankruptcies. He's had like a slew of people accused,
3 wives,
sexual assaults,
rape,
including one of his wives. Like, how do you go through life? And I know they're out there. I know there's a lot of people who just don't know what he's done. But I just can't wrap my mind around being able to go throughout life like not hearing about any of those things. What a blissful life to be able to never once have run across a political story about anybody, and then they get to go to the polls. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't be able to go to the polls and vote. I think that voting is a good thing, and we need as many people voting as possible, but underinformed to not informed at all people, it just blows my mind that they're also getting out there and checking a box and thinking, well, this guy hugged a flag, so he's got to be a good dude. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Let's pray for Trump. Let's get all these ministers to the White House. We'll all put hands on them and find nature of God to the divine, from heaven above. God will send his message through our bodies into Trump's. Shut the fuck up, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I come from a family whose my mother is probably the most religious person I've ever met in my life. I mean, stone cold, hardcore Christian, and at the same time, one of the spiritual people you've ever met. Loves everybody. She just loves everyone. I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, pink, purple, trans, gay. It doesn't matter. She doesn't care who you are. You know what I mean? I'm the same way. I don't care who you are, but I see the world the way it is. You can't make things up to fit your narrative because you want them to fit your narrative. That's not how this works. We're on this planet together, and we're in this country, and you're not gonna get around that. There's just too much. Look, man, I watched this movie called, or this this one TV show called The Warrior, and it was a Chinese in San Francisco in the late 1800s, right? So it was like I think it was like 1880 something. It did just before they passed the Chinese Exclusionary Act. I think it was 1882, 1883 or something like that. But anyways, dude, I mean, they were, bro, they were messing with the Chinese hard, bro. They did not like those white men and women. They hated the Chinese, dude. Like, hated it. Like, did not like, couldn't stand. And you're watching it and you're just like, damn, dude. I mean, hey, let's go build the railroads. And I don't know how many Chinese are blown up in that mountain. Oh, 500. Oh, well, let's go get 500 more. That's how it was, dude. That's how it was. That's how it worked. That's how it worked. You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, wait a minute. So this is your business and you're Japanese? Well, it doesn't matter. We're going to put you in an internment camp anyways. So we're going to take all your money, all your stuff, and you're going to stay in these barracks for like 5 years because we're fighting Japan and you're Japanese. Even if you're not Japanese and you look Japanese,
right?
We're going to be. Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what America is, dude. That's what white Americans do. That's what they do. That's what they've done. That's what they continue to do. And I'm not making that up. I have witnessed it myself. I've witnessed it with my own eyes. I've been called the N-word more times than I can count. You know what I mean? So, dude, your people, your tribe has been on American soil. What did you say, like 10,000 years or something like that?
Yeah, longer than that. Yeah, like tens of thousands, but yeah.
Pangea. Yeah, Pangea. Yeah, let's just say yeah. So, I mean, I've got on some furs and I've got on a velvet robe, and I just sailed across the sea, and this place looks comfortable. So sorry, guys, this is mine now. And we're gonna not only that, we're gonna kill all the animals, and we're gonna trade their furs. We're going to make sure that all the mink are gone, all the beavers are gone, all these little animals, just because we want their fur. And we're going to make sure that we slaughter all your food, hence, and, all the buffalo are going to be dead. They're going to be dead just because we don't want you to eat anything. We don't want you to survive, because you're savages. That's the way it went, man. And people don't want to hear the truth, which really sucks. But that's the way it is. The truth is the truth, and
it's still very, very, very uncouth, I think is the way you'd put it. Like, uncivilized sounds hilarious, a little ironic. To sit down at a table. I mean, metaphorical table, of course, because the internet is now our kitchen table in reality today. But it's like uncouth to talk about genocides. Like, I guess once World War II happened and ended, it was just it's everybody's scared to name anything else a genocide, as if like genocides are over now that the biggest genocide, to happen globally, historically.
Dude, Rwanda was a genocide. Rwanda was a genocide. Come on.
But how often do you hear people bring
Under
up
the,
Rwanda other than us?
no one. No,
Yeah.
because it was dude, it was under the Clinton administration and they did nothing about it.
Yep. And there's ongoing genocides throughout the world today. There's genocides in China. There's genocides still going on here. There's genocides over in the Middle East. Obviously, we've got one going on right now. There's genocides still rolling throughout the world, and it's just uncomfortable for some people to accept that, to take that at face value. I think that's kind of a double-edged sword. There was kind of I want to say good point, not like nobody's thinking about it, but Vosh, I enjoy Vosh, his political commentary. He's got his own I don't want to say flaws, but like there's some online drama, and I'm not particularly interested in discussing that right now, but he has a pretty keen insight or hand on his pulse for all things political. And one of the points he brought up to his chat, who can sometimes his chat people can be a little bit out there at times, and some of them were talking about doomer type stuff, how any day now the whole nation is going to be streets filled with Nazis, and people of color and LGBTQ, people of alternative, type, are going to be drug out into the street and shot. And he did make a good point in that people are far too complacent for that. They want to sit down and scroll on their phones. They want to scroll on TikTok. They want to scroll on Fox News, or sit in front of their TV and watch Fox News. They want to barbecue in their backyard. They want to, shop off of Amazon. The very last thing the vast majority of Americans want to do is exert a lot of energy, which, includes like loading your ammo, going out
killing
in the
each
middle of the
other.
street. Yeah, like they don't have the stomach for it. They don't have the energy for it. They certainly don't have the conditioning, like the actual physical conditioning for it. I'm one to talk. I get gassed, gardening, but it's both it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. Like, we're super lazy, so we also don't vote. We don't get out and go to the polling station and vote. But on the other hand, it's going to be really hard for the Nazis to convince everybody to get out and drag their friends who are LGBTQ and their neighbors who are Black or Native American or whatever out into the streets and start, so I don't know how you'd even build fences to build compounds in America, because we're all mixed together. So it's not highly likely that we're going to get Americans coordinated, like, Nazi type Americans, coordinated enough to do kind of a second take of World War II, or what led up to World War II. But at the same time, they're not really relying on heavy-handed actions and a lot of mass coordination like that to get these things done. They're relying on the backhanded power grabs, the electoral college, the putting people in place who will ignore wins and not sign off on elections that Dems won in states where it's a red state, or some Republican happens to be the governor or whatever. Not playing fair, basically. They rely on, increasingly so too, not playing fair. So it's not really a matter of having the numbers and having the physical conditioning and the wherewithal to get out and do like the mass kind of Nazi concentration camp type stuff anymore. It's a little more subtle, a little more subvert than that. So it's not quite as scary as kind of, the Weimar, Republic stuff in the early 1900s in Germany. But it's still scary because if they get what, when I say they, I mean the racist, Christian nationalist type people and the evangelicals who are supporting them. If they continue down this path and we are too lazy to stand up against them, they're gonna make it great again, where it's reverting back to those times where we put, where everybody stood by and let Chinese people and Japanese people get put in concentration camps because they didn't care to sort them out, because it was just more expedient to be racist than it was to be accurate in judicial uh, research, I guess. So I'm a bit concerned. I'm not overly concerned. I'm not like sweating bullets and thinking that I need to stock up on weaponry and build ditches around my house. But I'm certainly concerned that we're going to be so lazy as Americans that we're going to just let these racists kind of sleepwalk into controlling the nation for another 50, 100 years.
Yeah, you got a point, dude. I mean, 190 million people who are white. If 1% of those people, just 1%, have a mindset that's, white, nationalist, evangelical, fascist. If 1% of white Americans in this country, let's just say 0.5%. So what's 1% of 190? It's 1.9 million, right? That's a lot of people, dude. Half of that is what, 450,000? No, about 500, almost 550,000 people. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yep.
if that many people hate just based on color and color of one's skin and or religion, one's religion, and or one's gender, it's a bad situation, brother. It's one of those. It will become a thing. Yeah, like a bad thing. Like it's not something you're going to be able to just go, well, they're just, they're just doing this, or they're just, boys being boys, or just, a bunch of guys, bunch of good old boys. No, this isn't a, dare me to do that in a small town. This is yeah, it's going to be crazy. And yeah, you're going to have to dig a ditch around your house, and you're going to have to, stock up on weapons, and you're going to have to get ammo. I'm not saying you're going to have to go out and, become, Bruce Lee or anything like that, but, you're definitely going to have to defend yourself. You're going to have to defend yourself, you and yours, and that's the uncomfortable truth, dude. That's just the way things are going to go. I mean, things change, I mean, you had the roaring 20s. You had the oppression from what, 29, when the stock market just fell off a cliff in 1929, I think it was. And then you have the depression. It was like 6 or 7 years, something like that. The Oklahoma Dust Bowl. You have the Okies up there in Central, and they hated the Okies. They were white and poor, and those Californians hated them. You know what I mean? There's this country, not just this country, but humanity always needs a scapegoat. So, I mean, you had World War II. You had Hitler and hating anything that wasn't Aryan. right?
Yeah.
And then you had the after World War II, we were black women didn't get a chance to buy property because they weren't allowed to invest in or become part of the great um, education called. So they couldn't be, and they weren't given the ability to buy property in you know mainstream America, right? It was still separate but equal back then. And it happened. And that's literally when things changed somewhat. But things are still the same. Things are still the same. Things, even though, yeah, you're right. There's still a genocide sort going on in this country when it comes to whole racists, the inability of the country to treat black women with respect and decorums to their childbirth. The morbidity rate for black women, I don't know, I can't remember the exact data, but it's high, bro. It's higher.
Yeah.
It's higher than Latino, Asian. It's higher. It's the highest in the nation. So there are all of those things that you have to take into consideration that people don't. Dude, as a black man, as black people, as African Americans, we know that people don't care about us. You can talk all the smack you want, but dude, when you're in your enclave up there in Rancho Bernardo or wherever it is, what's La Jolla, blah 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 blah. Dude, we all know what's going on. We get it. We get it. We're not stupid. I mean, who do you think we are? Like, you think we're that dumb? You know what I mean? Like, are we that dumb? No, we're not that dumb.
Right.
So yeah, dude, this is a me that when I think about not just black people, but what happened to indigenous people, to the native people of this country, of this land, from the top of the Yukon territory all the way down to the bottom of Argentina and everything in between. When you think about what happened there, I mean, from the Eskimos all the way to, I lived in Alaska. You wasn't cool, dude. I would go to church, the Church of God in Christ in Anchorage, Alaska, every day, and we had Eskimo members, and it was, bro, it was, this is 19, man, people don't even know, bro. They don't even know. America not just pulled the ladder up, but slammed the door in the faces of a lot of people in this country. Poor white people. Mind blown. You're poor and you're white, and this is your deal. This is how you're coming at me, dude. Like, you're poor and you're white, and I might be poor and I might be white, but at least I'm not an N-word. I'm like, what? You're serious? Yeah, bro. He's serious. He's serious. You can go on and on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
So,
What do you just like if you can make a prediction? I know predictions are never right. If God willing, if we win the election, if the woke mob wins the election, and these, you know, these poor, and some of them are affluent, but let's just go by numbers. If these poor, particularly the racists, if these poor racist white people don't get their king elected and don't get to change the country into a Christian nation that's run by them as they become the minority, what do you think their response is going to be? Do you think they're going to do a little bit of terrorism and all that good bit?
Oh yeah, that's I think. Oh yeah, I mean, when people look, man, they were told that their lives were going to be, it was something that America had. It was like their birthright, as a white man or a white woman. That's, they were sold a bill of goods, bro. It was just like black people in religion in this country, right? White people were sold the. It's even worse for white people because they totally believed it. Like they bought into it hook, line, and sinker. They were like, yeah, man, I'm going to be able to do A, B, C, D, E, F, this. My kids are going to go to college. We're going to be sitting on this big hill in this big house. And for a lot of people in this country, none of that happened. And then you go through a depression in the 30s. You go through a couple wars. You lose sons, lose daughters, you lose cousins, moms, and dads. You go through Vietnam, right? Where the average fighting man was the age of was 19 years old, and they were all poor people, dude. They were all poor, and they were enlisted. They were drafted into the Army, into the Marine Corps, into the Air Force, and these generals knew what kind of fighting man they were getting. These weren't these people. These young men didn't go to college. They were some of them hadn't even finished high school, bro. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. 50, 60,000. They say 57,000, but we know that there was probably close to 80,000 people who died in Vietnam, if not more. Because that's 57,000 probably that died there. We don't know what back from Vietnam. What others that died of their wounds, a couple years later. We have no idea, right? So, but that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a number of men and women who really thought they were in a situation, or they were going to be part of a situation and part of a climate in America, this beautiful, enduring American dream that they were going to be a part of that. But it just for a lot of people that just never happened. It just never happened. I grew up, dude. I grew up in that bubble. I grew up in that upper middle class bubble of parents or people or families who, had great jobs, lived in the suburbs. I grew up like that. And I also grew up with people that I went to high school with whose parents didn't have those jobs. Whose parents weren't in the same situation I was in, And I knew those as well. And I'm telling you, dude, black and white. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there are a lot of angry men and women out there who are white, who they're angry. And, they're my age, anywhere between like 49 and like 65. They're just pissed off because they're like, hey, man, this is the way the world should be. And it's not because of black crime and this kind of crime and that kind of, well, dude, if if that popping sound you heard was your head coming out of your ass, okay, and you took a moment, you know what I mean? If you took a moment to understand the harsh freaking reality and history of this country, you'd understand why these things have happened. But you've regressed in your own philosophy when it comes to, you know, who we are as a country. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. And even if someone told you the truth, you wouldn't believe them anyways. And that's what this is about. These people, the truth, dude, truth sucks, man. And a lot of these people they don't care. And they've never cared. And they'll continue not to care. It's the way it is.
Yep. Well, that's depressing.
That's the truth. Come on, dude. He got 80 million votes, dude. He got 80 million votes.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
He got, you know, he still lost the popular vote, but he got 80 million. He got a ton of votes, bro. 40% of California voted for his ass, dude.
Yep.
40%.
Yep.
Dude.
Well, he won't live forever.
So that's where we are.
He won't live forever, and we're building up a good base of young young legislators who are people of color. I'm particularly interested in Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader.
Yeah.
He's, I think, a rising star. Let's hope that he doesn't have any weird skeletons in his closet. But I think by the time these next midterms are done and we're shooting for the next president, well, obviously Biden can't run again because this is his second term, and he's going to be far too old to run at that point. And Trump, I'm sure, will be so dementia ridden if he doesn't win this time. By then, 4 years from now, he's going to be so off his rocker that even the Republican Party can't, ignore that. Not like they did Reagan, at the end of his presidency. That I think it might be viable to put somebody like Hakeem Jeffries up for president. But that, again, depends on kind of the boat and where we take it. If we just decide to sit back and let this, I don't say new form, because you're right, it's not a new form of racism, but if we sit back and let this type of racism start to metastasize again on the internet, thanks to whatever, TikTok and all these other social outlets doing short form and not keeping people informed. If we keep doing that and keep letting racism win, then maybe we don't. Maybe we again just will not elect, a woman or a person of color of any gender, and we'll just continue to get old white men running against old white men, and that's just our doom, for our cycle of doom forever. I don't know.
Well, I don't know either. That's something we should. I don't know, dude. It's just, I mean, at this point in time, it's a head scratcher. It's just, 150 years ago, we couldn't even, 150 years ago, like 75 years ago, hold on. Yeah, about 125 years ago, we couldn't even get off the ground. Air. We weren't even driving. And it's just 124. That was 120 years ago. And now look at us. And we're still the same people. We're still the same human beings. All this technology and all of this know-how, we still we still fuck shit up. We just get together for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. And then we want to blame everybody because it's not our fault. It's your fault. You're black. You're Asian. You know, we didn't do this. Like, we weren't the ones who brought all this stuff to existence, right? We were chilling, like, you know, we were running with antelopes and shit. You know, we were cool. You know, and then you guys showed up, and it's been uncool ever since.
Right.
Well,
It's a pretty good point that, like, and I'm being a bit sarcastic when I like take this to its logical extension.
So am I.
But
So am I.
you're making a pretty good point in that, you know, okay, so we're to blame, right? Like people of color or poor people or LGBTQ, the woke mob, we're to blame for the downfall of the nation. But here's in origin, it's supposed to be this Christian nation, you know, made by great white rich men, right? If that's the case, it must have been a shit plan because you came over to a land that was already populated with this grand, you know, manifest destiny plan that was so easily diverted and subverted by poor people with no, you know, no weaponry, no mass weaponry, no power, no control, and they were able to just put, you know, a wrench into this masterful plan and machinery of yours. It must have been a really shit plan if you couldn't keep it from being destroyed by people who are so much lesser than you are, you know?
That's basically what happened. And then they came here and they killed everything. If it moved, it was done. You know, there's a song by the Beach Boys called "Traitor," Trader. You know, and what it speaks on is how the traders, you know, the French, the English. Just watch a movie called Last of the Mohicans with Daniel Day-Lewis. How the French and the Indians and the British fought against each other in the French and Indian Wars in the 1700s. And it goes on to explain, the song does, how, you know, basically it says, we wear these robes, we came over here, you're not as good as us, so we're just going to, you know, it's a beautiful song, you know, that's what colonization, manifest destiny, and imperialism, you know, that's what it does. And I got to see it, you know, on the level that a lot of people don't get to see it. I was in the Marine Corps, you know, so I got to see all that stuff. It's pretty bad, you know?
Yeah.
So, but hey, all right. Yeah.
Well, that was once again one of our lighter, joke filled, happy go lucky podcasts. So if anybody got through to the end of this, you might want to now go meditate, get some nice, was it Inya? Go listen to some Inya to relax after all that great hilarity. Find a calmer point in your day.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I again, I'm not like the biggest, not the biggest doomer in the world, so I'm not. Nobody needs to worry about me. I'm not gonna go start weaving a rope and hanging it from the ceiling after chats like these. But I certainly think that anybody who is part of the woke mob, the alphabet mafia, or, you know, person of color or poor, or somebody who wants abortions, or so just somebody who doesn't want to be a modern day Nazi in America, you might want to keep your head on a swivel is what we're saying. You might want to vote. You might want to explain to your non-political friends just what is up for the vote. It's not lower taxes. That's not what's being voted on this time. I know you're used to saying that, but it's legitimately, it's not hyperbolic. It's not hyperbole to say hyperbole to say that democracy itself, your freedoms, like the ability to choose your medical procedures, your future in general, you could be limited. Anybody, it doesn't matter what group you belong to, your future could be limited if you decide to just sit this one out and not vote because you're not political or it's too much research. And for those of you who do research and do concern yourself with this stuff, it's already time. You need to start talking to every one of your friends and tell them exactly what your concerns are. And even though somebody may not be a perfect candidate, explain to them why it's important that we look beyond flaws and look at the bigger picture when we hit the voting booth.
There you go. I agree.
All right.
100%.
Well, this was American Micro in March 10th. Thanks for anybody who watched this. Check out our social media. We just got to the point where we're figuring out how to pull videos into OBS so that we can do the, what are they called? Reaction videos. So we're going to be doing a lot more of the reaction videos. So look for those, and had a good conversation. I had a good time talking to you, Rodney, as usual. And I will see you on the inside.
All right, bro.